this presentation, I want to discuss with you 7 ways to increase athletic confidence. If you're a consultant or a coach, you can use these things to increase or help increase the confidence of your athlete or a team. And if you are an athlete, you can certainly use these techniques or thoughts to increase your own confidence. Normally in academia, there have been 6 ways to increase athletic confidence. In the course of my career and in my experience with many different kinds of athletes, I have found a 7th way to increase athletic confidence, and I'm going to wait until the 7th one to reveal that one to you. So with that, let me lay out now the 7 ways to increase athletic confidence. The number 1 most powerful way or method, if you would, to increase athletic confidence is something called self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is simply confidence that is gleaned from past success. And so, for example, an athlete has a performance that was deemed successful, either by the coach, theirself, or somebody. Whatever it is, the performance is considered a success. The athlete then is or should have a lot more confidence going into the future based on the past. Is simply called self-efficacy. And the more success an athlete or a team has had in the past, then it seems logical that they would have more confidence or self-efficacy going into the future. One trap, though, that you have to be aware of, either as a coach, athlete, or consultant, is dealing with huge expectations that normally come with a large sense of self-efficacy. So in other words, a team takes for granted an opponent. Let's say a team that comes into their stadium and they don't feel as if they really have to try that hard because the team that they're facing is, allegedly not that good. Well, they're so confident because of past success and their expectation to win is so high, then sometimes they'll let their guard down. They won't try as hard. Call me overconfident. And that is something that they're going to have to do in managing their expectations. What we're really talking about here then is managing their self-efficacy. They got to keep it real, you see, and take this thing literally one opponent at a time, not taking an opponent, a team for granted. In golf, let's say, not taking a hole for granted just because it's not as long, or people have labeled it as an easy hole. Just because they've reeled off 6, 7 birdies or something like that, then they get to this hole which is seemingly short because of the length, and then they say, well, this is an easy hole and therefore I don't have to try that hard. Next thing you know, you're looking at a bogey or something like that, and then that can hurt their confidence going on to the next hole. Yes, they have had a lot of success in the past, which should give them confidence going forward, but you have to manage that. There's a fine line there between being confident and being overconfident. Part of the reason why, yes, self-efficacy is important, but if it's going to lead to giant expectations, then quite frankly, I would start looking at maybe setting goals, because it seems like expectations, it has an emotional component attached to it. And then if an athlete is not aware of their emotions, if they're not, if they're not fully developed into their mind, then they don't know how to control their emotional regulation. They don't know how to deal with these types of real highs and real lows, and that's what expectations can do to an athlete. So if you've got a goal, it can be easily raised up and down. It doesn't seem to be as emotional, but nevertheless, where does confidence come from? It's like a big circle. Most of the time, and certainly the most powerful source of confidence comes from past success. And interestingly, negative self-efficacy also can come and be compounded by past failure. It's like a cruel circle. I sort of try to look beyond that, beyond self-efficacy, and say, look, let's lose the word failure. It's not a failure, it's a learning experience. And then if we can sort of reframe that in the athlete's mind, even if they're coming off several losses or they're coming off a suspect season of some sort, then it's no longer a failure. Then all of a sudden it's nothing negative. In fact, it's really something positive. We can frame that into their mind where there is no negative. Not really. It's only a learning opportunity. And that way you can use, positive and negative self-efficacy to help the athlete in the future. So it's important that an athlete or a team build confidence through past success. But what also another very powerful source of confidence from a coach now to a team or to an athlete is a solid source of feedback. Now, feedback, in my estimation, can come from 3 different sources that can give an athlete or a team a lot more confidence. So obviously, the first feedback is a person that has a large amount of credibility with the team or the athlete. Obviously, that's going to be the coach. And so as a coach, as a consultant, if you have built a rapport with the team, it is so critical to use positive self-talk and keeping everything on a positive note with the team. I have the opinion now that this old thing about, hard driving, critical, being negative with athletes, it doesn't work as well anymore as perhaps it did 30 or 40 years ago. So feedback, if it is gotten or received from a credible source like a coach, then it can be a very powerful thing. But here's one of the funny things about feedback is that it really depends on how the athlete views that person. They could have a lot of credibility. I mean, that coach could have a heck of a lot of credibility, but if they're not liked, if the coach is really not liked, then the athlete will put up several walls in front of that player, even though the coach has got quite a bit of credentials. And so there's this thing about rapport with the athlete or the team, and certainly if the athlete is a junior athlete because they're not emotionally regulated yet. But even in the professional ranks, if you've got a coach that's respected, but he's not liked, then it could be problematic as far as them receiving feedback. Another interesting source of feedback would be somebody that's respected, but not necessarily attached to the team or the athlete. And I'll give you an example. Let's say if a golf professional is playing around, and then Jack Nicklaus happens to respond to the athlete and said to the world through a broadcast, what a terrific player this was, or what a great shot selection that this player made, or something like that, then that might mean the world to that athlete because of the juice or the credentials that Jack Nicklaus have. I mean, it would be a heck of a thing for Jack Nicklaus to make a comment about a player, and even if he did not know the player, that athlete could take or get a lot of confidence from a man like Jack Nicklaus making a positive comment about his or her performance. Another source of feedback that could be is very powerful is from a parent or a person that the athlete loves or deeply respects, and then that they know that person. And that is why it is critical, if you're close to an athlete, parent, guardian, something like that, to always stay positive, always stay positive. That athlete is so vulnerable and has opened themselves up to suggestions from you that they're just like a sponge. And that's why you got to be real careful when you're dealing with someone that looks up to you and respects you, that you have a very close relationship with. They're taking it all in. So very important to stay positive. Even if they didn't have a very good performance, you can always look for something that's constructive, never anything that's critical. And then lastly, feedback from fans or the media or something like that, I don't know if it has that much effect on an athlete. Now, certainly as they get older, they are more skeptical, but people like that have no connection to the athlete other than being on the fan base or the media or something would, in my estimation, would be the lowest denominator or the lowest point of influence on an athlete as far as feedback is concerned. The third source of building athletic confidence is something called modeling or vicarious experience. The athlete sees themselves as being able to do something because they see another person doing it that inspires them. It's really a comparison here, and quite frankly, I don't like when athletes compare themselves to other athletes because the expectation can be sort of problematic at this point. Why is that? Well, they may be comparing themselves to an Olympic athlete, somebody with so much talent that it'd be very hard to duplicate that. So I will say to that person, let's just contrast. Let's look at that person and then contrast, where are they as an athlete? What do they possess that perhaps that you can model or that you can build upon? What is it that they're doing that you can do, but you need to do it better? And then if that athlete can do something similar to what another great athlete is doing, then they may use that old line, if they can do it, then I can do it. At that point, then they can take confidence in knowing, well, you know what, I'm the same size as this person. I appear to have the same amount of talent as this person. I got the same speed, the strength, something. I've got all of the physical attributes of that athlete. The only thing left now is the execution. And that's why there is can be a lot of yardage, a lot of ifs right in here between they can do it, I can do it, and actually doing it. Because this is the boulevard of dreams, if you would, right in here. This athlete has already done all that. This athlete still got a long way to pay the price. But nevertheless, it can be a powerful source of confidence by looking at another athlete, making a contrast. I don't like using the word comparison here, but you can take that for what it's worth. You can compare and contrast that person and say, look, I've got some of the same skills, or I've got the same skill set as that athlete has. They are where I want to be. All I got to do is continue working, and then hopefully I'll be where they are. Now, again, I don't like this source of confidence as certainly as strong as the previous two. That's for sure. This is more of a weak, source, but it is a source nevertheless. But I will say to you, as either a coach or an athlete, certainly, or as a consultant, beware. Just beware of this particular one, of comparing yourself with another athlete. Just take stock. Where are you as an athlete? Where are they as an athlete? Is it something that you can really relate to that person? And if so, what do you have to do in order to get there? If it works for you, modeling or living through vicarious expressions, I'd say go for it. Part of modeling is what I would consider another source of building athletic confidence, is actually seeing yourself do what you want to do. Now, the modeling is based on someone else doing it, but it's still a visualization technique. This technique is first person. You see yourself doing what it is that you want to do before you do it. In other words, you're actually saying, I am the heavyweight champion. I am a PGA Tour player. Subconscious mind does not know the difference between fantasy and reality. So if you start saying it now, start acting like it now, the subconscious mind is just going to fall. It's just going to fall in lockstep with that. If you act like a PGA Tour pro, you know what? Then you're going to start acting like a PGA Tour pro. The only caveat is that you're not going to fool yourself for long. So if you are a 20 handicap and you start saying, you know what, I'm a PGA Tour pro, it ain't going to be for long where this technique is going to backfire on you. What I am suggesting to you is saying, just take a slight step forward as far as your goals are concerned. If you're a 20 handicap and you start saying, you know what, I can play just as good as those 15 handicaps. You know what, I am a 15 handicap. Well, figure out what it takes to get from 20 to 15 is more likely just your driver accuracy. Work on your driver, and you start telling yourself you're a 15 handicap because you have figured out what to do. You got to increase your driver accuracy. Guess what? All of a sudden, subconscious mind got to buy into that. You're going to start acting like it, and all of a sudden, boom, you'll start doing it. But to say that you're going to be a PGA Tour pro and you are 40 years old and you're going to be playing up against Tiger or Phil or something like that. It's not realistic. And you can say it all day long, and the subconscious mind will go along with it for now. But soon enough, you'll get caught in your own lie, and then the lie will make you feel worse than if you had never said it at all. So therefore, the technique here is to sort of say, you've got the talent to do it, you've got the drive to do it, and you're doing it now. You're working towards that goal. You know you've got the tools. Put it into action now. So I want to tell you a quick story on this, that a person that has used this that had been and is very successful. Conor McGregor, of course, the great MMA champion, had stated many years before he was the champion that he was going to be I guess he was the champion in 2 weight divisions, but he said it many times, he is going to be the champion of that division, and then of course he went on to the next division. He was saying it before that. He was seeing it in his mind before it actually happened. And then he acted on a thing is called the law of attraction, which he's stating it out there as part of his visualization routine. He's stating it into the world. It's going out into the world. And the law of attraction states that once you do something like that, the people and the things and the circumstance and the money, the situations, all that kind of thing are attracted to you. Now, so this is just a theory. I'm not sure I buy into it, but you know what? What would it hurt? As long as it's real, as long as it makes sense and it's not some pie in the sky fantasy, then I say go for it. But you've got to have everything else that's got to be in place. It can't be just some kind of a dream. Right? It needs to be rooted in reality. And it can be a year out, or 2 years out, or 3 years out. But if you can see it in your mind and you actually have the tools to do it, tools being the talent, place to practice, good coaching, everything else is in place, and you're not injured, then there's no reason why you can't do it. It's just a matter of belief. You're actually feeding into your belief system. And that is a huge and a powerful thing. Belief, obviously, confidence. But you got to be careful and you got to monitor that kind of a thing, because you want to make sure that you're not feeding your subconscious mind, a bunch of lies. You don't want to delude yourself, lying to yourself, because that's eventually it's going to come back to you. If it's a lie, it's going to come back to you. It's going to hurt your confidence more than you were strutting around like a rooster at the beginning. So it's best just to set your goals, and then if you got a goal a year down the road, 2 years down the road, say, look, I'm going to be a PGA Tour player. Well, you're on the mini tour right now. You got to get to the web.com. Great. I'm going to work my way to the web.com. I'm going to get off the web. I'm going to be a PGA Tour player. I am a PGA Tour player. Well, you know what? If you've got the scoring average and all the stats to match a PGA Tour pro, that's great. You may not be able to do it in competition right now, but if you can do it in practice, then you can do it. But if you can't do it in practice, then how are you going to do it in tournament? See, so there it is, right? Putting all the pieces together first, that helps to build the confidence in order to be able to have the boldness to say it out into the world, feeding your subconscious mind with positive affirmations, feeding into your belief system that the subconscious mind says, you know what? This is real. I mean, this is real now. All of a sudden, that gives you a lot more confidence to go forward. So visualization, coupled with maybe the thought of the law of attraction, stating it out there, putting it out there. But I will put out a cautionary note here, is that you got to have the goods. If you're going to do that, you got to have the goods in order to state that, because if not, eventually time is not going to be kind to you. So keep it real. Another interesting source of athletic confidence is what's called good emotional connections to either a place, a circumstance, a club, something. In other words, let's say, I'll give you an example. A team, they go into a certain area. It could be a home field, could be another stadium, could be something. Well, they've had a lot of self-efficacy in the past in this place. And then once they get there, their emotional connection to this place has been nothing but positive. All of a sudden, that's going to give them a lot of confidence. Another good example of that, when you hear this quite a bit on the golf tour, is that a player will say, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Florida swing, or I'm looking forward to getting up in this area. Why is it? Well, they've had a lot of self-efficacy in the past, a lot of positive success in the past. They've got a good feeling, good emotional feeling about this location, this this club or this golf course or something like that. And then we can even take it a little deeper down the rabbit hole. Some players have a real tight and emotional connection to a piece of equipment or a shirt. You've seen that red shirt that Tiger wears. So this is an emotional connection that he has with a shirt. It's just really, to tell you the truth, I think part of it is superstition, and no one's more superstitious than athletes. And so, but it comes from self-efficacy. If the red shirt didn't work, then he wouldn't be wearing a red shirt, you see. And so, but they have a good feeling about a place, a circumstance, a club, a golf course, a stadium, a particular bat, whatever. That thing, then, that inanimate object, right, or that place, gives the athlete a good emotional connection to something positive. We've had a lot of success here in the past, then we expect a lot of success here in the future. Again, I don't want you as an athlete or a coach or a consultant to overstate expectations here, because it is huge. Keep it real. Keep the expectations in check. Say, yes, even though we have had a lot of success here in the past, we still got to stay right here in the present and focus on what we need to do to execute a positive outcome. Staying in the now, then, is the key to having positive outcome. Even though you may have had a nice emotional connection to a place in the past, that doesn't give you carte blanche that you're going to have success right now. Another interesting thing about that, even if there was a negative emotional connection, that could motivate the player to say, I am now so highly motivated because we've had no self-efficacy or negative self-efficacy in the past. Now I'm going to overcome that today. It could give them even a boost of confidence, or maybe a boost of motivation that they may not have had because they may have taken it for granted, you see. So just be in tune with the athlete's mind, either negatively or positively, as far as their emotions and their motivation, based on circumstance, situation, and then gauge that, and then you can state through feedback what is going to help the athlete become more and more positive and confidence going into this situation. That leads right into the next logical thing, which is, let's say a team or an athlete has had negative, have had failure in the past, going into a stadium, going into a particular club or something like that. Well, they've got a negative feeling about this. That's when you have to control that kind of a thing. But really, you can turn a negative situation into a positive by reframing this thing and then using that to motivate the athlete. So even if they've had a negative connection emotionally with a place, they can turn it and say, today I'm going to turn this thing so that it works for me instead of against me. I am more charged up now than I was last year, or when we were having a bunch of positive self-efficacy. Now I want to overcome this barrier and go forward. Now you got to watch out, though. What is the personality of the player you're dealing with? Because if an athlete is not strong enough to be able to say that, then they may have a tendency to allow the negative outcomes of the past to continue to pound in their mind that you got no chance here. You've never had a chance here. You've never had any success here, and therefore you're not going to have any success now. So you should be aware of that. So a part of controlling negative emotions is being able to monitor what kind of feedback are these emotions affecting the athlete. How is it affecting the athlete? Is their heartbeat racing here? Are they very anxious because of some kind of negative past efficacy, and they just haven't had any success in the past? If you see that, even in yourself or in your team, again, you got to monitor. You have to sort of monitor each player, each individual, and say, look, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts going on? Hopefully they'll share that with you. Or if you're an athlete, you be honest with yourself and say, look, I just don't have a good feeling about this. Well, okay, fine. Then if they can't turn it right there, if they can't seem to reframe it in their mind, then maybe we start out with just some baby just small steps of success, and just and build upon those successes until all of a sudden we start to build self-efficacy. And so it's just one little step at a time. If they can't turn it and they can't motivate themselves, you can't help to motivate themselves. The environment is coming down onto them, or it's just something about this situation, this golf club, this ball, this bat, something. They can't overcome it, they can't get out of it, and they can't reframe it in their mind. Then maybe just bunt the ball, or maybe let's just get 3 yards here, or maybe let's just hit an iron off the tee, something, in order to say, look, and start to working on that subconscious mind. Say, look, this ain't all that bad. We can have a little bit of success. We've had a little bit of success here. Just one little thing at a time, not an 80-yard bomb or a 320-yard drive or something like that. No, just one little step at a time. That can help an athlete turn the worm, if you would, in their mind from a negative situation and then slowly turning it into a positive. That's a powerful source of confidence, being able to train your own mind or to train your athlete's mind into reframing what could have been a negative emotion into a positive one. Boy, that is powerful. And lastly, this is the seventh source of athletic confidence, and one I added, and all the other stuff, is something that I had been taught in academia. Those are the standard, if you would. Okay, fine. So one of the things that's very controversial to talk about in college or in graduate school that's outside of a theology course is religion. But a lot of athletes are very religious people, and so they believe in God. And in America, they're more than likely Christian athletes, so they believe in Christ. That Christ and God is in the center of their world. And so what I have done with an athlete that has told me that, that they are in a Christian household, but they're full of anxiety, they worry, then I say to them, I look back, I ask them to look inside of themselves and say, what did the Bible say about worry? And they'll go back and think about all the scriptures they had been taught in Sunday school, and perhaps they've been being taught now, and they'll know that their life, the life of a Christian person, is not centered around athletics. And quite frankly, some of the scriptures in the Bible even state, what is it that you're worried about? You are nothing more than dust in the wind. I mean, that's an analogy. In other words, you're here today, you're gone tomorrow, just like that. But trying to talk to a 16-year-old about that is difficult to try to, or it's challenging to get them into that state of mind. So you can tell them all day, oh, honey, it's fine, go out, and there's nothing for you to worry about. But it's not getting through to them. So you have to sort of you got to get them into a place where this is organic, it's self-generated. Well, how do I get there as a coach or perhaps as an athlete? How do I get to that place? I mean, we're at the bottom now of this person's personality. We're at the core of this individual. We've gone through all of the defense mechanism walls that have been set up. We're at their belief system now. And you know what? That's what religion is nothing more than confidence in God. And so confidence is another word for belief and faith, and that is at the core of religion. And if religion is at the core of this person, you're right there. You're at the core. You're at the bottom of the rabbit hole, and then you can use that to help this athlete, build their confidence, or more than likely support them in anxious situations. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a softball player, a young female softball player, 16 years old, had off the chart kind of a talent, off the chart kind of a talent, but yet she was very anxious because some parents and some other athletes were jealous. They were screaming at her through, in the stands, that she was using a shaved bat. Shaved bat mean they have shaved the wall of the bat from the inside to make it more of a trampoline effect, because she was hitting every ball over the fence. It hurt her deeply. I mean, such to the point where she's getting ready to quit the sport. And so she was a very deeply religious person, And so I reminded her about the very scriptures that she had been reading all of her life about the kind of people that were literally around her, that had been surrounding her, wolves and sheep. And that she was being surrounded by people that hated her talent, They didn't hate her, they hated the talent because they were envious and they were jealous. That is right out of the Bible. And so that then made sense to her. She then remembered reading that stuff and being taught that, and then she was able to reconcile it in her mind and say in her mind, yeah, I remember that, and now it makes sense. Now God warned me that this was going to happen. It's happening to me, and now I gave her the tools to be able to compartmentalize this group of people from this group of people. These are the ones you put over here. These are the people that are supporters. These people over here, they smile and tell you great job and do well, but really they're turning a knife in your back. They really want you to fail. These are the wolves in sheep's clothing that you were taught and warned about in your Sunday school. She remembered, see. Well, then that gave her the confidence, right? Because now these people, she put them in a place where she recognized that because she had been warned many years prior. But it took somebody like myself to go in and remind her that you remember when you were taught that God told you that. Oh my gosh. Immediate, just like that. See, then all of a sudden she was able to segment those people over there, recognize them. The religious antennae came up, and then all of a sudden she was able to shed all of the thoughts and feelings that were being generated because of the hate and the envy that was being spewed out by these haters over here. And then she just said, look, that I realize what you're doing, and it's not going to have any effect on me anymore. So here we go. Wow, religion then, the Lord, God, Christ, whatever religion that your athlete practices, can be such a powerful source of confidence. In fact, could it be even the most powerful source? Perhaps. I say this, it is certainly up there with self-efficacy. I'll put it right up there with that. But again, it's a sensitive subject, so you've got to let the athlete lead you into it. Or if you're an athlete, just remember back, who you are as a person. What are your core values as a person? And to understand that, you know what? You're going to be dead tomorrow. You might as well go for it now. What do you got to lose? Nothing. That can free the athlete of the chains of expectation, of negative self-talk, criticism, negative people, jealousy, envious, all the hate that's in the world. Now they can go forward with their sport with love and joy in their heart, expressing their God-given talent to the world and saying, here it is. Look what God has done for me. And inspire people. You want to talk about a source of confidence. My, oh my, that is something that as a consultant or as a coach is something that you might really consider using as part of your package of coaching techniques. So there you have 7 sources to boost and to build athletic confidence. And I tried to put it in a perspective of athlete or coach or consultant. Either way, now you can look back upon this presentation and use, 1, 2, or all of these sources to help build confidence in yourself or in the group of people or athlete that you're working with. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.